Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. What really matters at this strategic transition in our economy for your business and your organization? We're going to talk about two words that kind of emerge from the ashes, almost like Phoenix rising from the ashes. It's a fascinating topic. Stick with us right here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm with my favorite buddy over here, Mr. Bruce Arendt.
Thank you for having me.
And he's going to talk with me about these two words and how they can perhaps come together to fill the void that so many business owners right now are struggling with insofar as getting their company revitalized, focused, getting employees involved again. Cultures are kind of dissipating and falling apart in certain ways.
Right.
Bruce, so those two words, we'll start off right off the bat, huh?
What are they?
Those two words are community and meaning.
Huh.
Yeah, fairly high-minded ideas in the context of business.
Right.
Absolutely. But you know, the trend that makes them particularly important is that, frankly, people are isolated. It's quarantine. You know, we've been into 3-4 months into quarantine. People are kind of remote from each other.
Right.
We're not making new relationships very easily with people.
It's decimated community in a lot of different senses.
Right, at various levels. Why don't you elaborate on that for a second?
Well, I mean, people don't know, they don't even see their friends and neighbors or family anymore, let alone in businesses. I mean, the community of a business, you know, your group of employees,
yes,
and managers, you know, whether you like one another or not, you still have a community.
There is something there.
There's something there, but we've all been dispersed. You know, everybody's sitting at their home on a Zoom camera, a Zoom meeting,
exactly.
and that just kills.
Very hard to have casual, informal, and meaningful conversations.
Oh yeah, everything's is a little bit too forced or too structured, scheduled.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly, and there's no room for body language. Frankly, I mean,
not much.
You know, you don't really have a sense of if they're really sharing everything and being transparent and so on.
Yeah.
You know, a gentleman I follow closely, his name is Bob Proctor, and he said something years ago that I think relates to our conversation. He said, always be brave enough to have a meaningful conversation, you know? And I think that's what we are all aching for.
Yeah, because there's so much superficiality.
There really is.
Out there, always has been, but I think that's a great, I'd never heard that quote before.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, and it's so ironic that we don't think about that too much until we're really pushed apart.
Yeah.
And people say, you know, I kind of, you know, I'm doing my work and stuff, but it's not the greatest.
Feels kind of empty.
Feels a little empty and a little isolated from what Harry's doing and Susie's been working on for a while, and I'm just doing my thing. It's mechanical, not holistic.
Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting. So there's a little bit of a void there.
Oh, I think there's a big void there right now. You know?
Yeah. And so, I mean, logically, how do we fill that void? What does a business owner who's watching this show right now, or a manager for a larger company, what is that person supposed to think if they intuitively agree with what we're saying? Talk about community and talking about the word meaning. How do you fill the void, and what would be normal to do?
Well, and like I always say, everything in a company starts at the very top.
Yeah.
So whoever's at the top, whoever's driving that bus,
yeah,
they have to probably find a creative, innovative way to instill a sense of community among their employees,
yes.
And it's going to happen in different ways depending on the company and the existing culture that you already have.
Yeah. And that's tough. If you're not that kind of a person, you haven't really delved into this world of emotion and feelings.
You might just be a bottom line numbers guy.
Cut and dry.
Right.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, a couple guys on TV are saying, you need to embrace higher purpose. By the way, because these younger folks, they want it.
They'll identify with what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Now, this whole thing about community, of course, that's group, you know, it's related to groups. And, you know, American Express and Facebook.
I've heard of them. Both.
Yeah. And they've come right out and said, we're going to redefine our organizational structure and our culture and so on to emphasize the creation of groups for our employees and our customers.
Group within the organization.
Well, yeah, but particularly customer group. We're going to make
Okay.
it easier for customers to find and relate to each other. I mean, think about American Express. You're talking about spending money. Well, that's such a broad subject. Maybe there's a bunch of American Express customers that are invited to talk with each other about using their American Express card when they buy antiques.
Okay. Yeah.
Just as an example,
yeah.
see?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these people are forming, kind of friendships and commonalities because American Express is saying, we don't have to talk about our product. Let's talk about what you do with our product.
So would they be creating forums,
Yeah,
so to speak?
exactly. Forums would be a great example of community, Q&A and so on, and different ways that they can communicate with each other, all right? Or vote for your favorite antique of the year. I mean,
Right.
Or photographic galleries. Which one do you like best? You
Right.
know, I mean, all kinds of things like that.
People love swapping ideas,
Oh,
so I think
they
I think
do.
that's a smart way to go.
It really is. And of course, Facebook, I think we all know that Mark Zuckerberg has said he'll make more money moving away from selling broad Facebook ads to creating, so you use Facebook Messenger, for instance, as a way to communicate regularly with a small, tight, like a family group or an employee group or whatever.
Very targeted, though.
Small, yeah, very targeted and very defined. So you can't just bop into a message group
Right.
or a Facebook group. And that's the evolution that they're in. And you pay to have that. I mean, you pay to be able to do that. Of course, that increases the relevance.
Right. Yeah.
You know, when you go to Facebook these days, you're listening to 1,700 people say, "Here's my baby and here's my dog." Not so relevant.
Right.
Right. So he's thinking, I'm going to parse up these groups, get them into groups, and they'll have much more meaningful
I
conversations.
think people would feel like they're spending their time more wisely.
Yes.
When they're in a Facebook community like
Yeah.
that, as opposed to
Yeah.
sitting there and going, "Oh, I just wasted an hour on
Yeah,
Facebook."
and they might be willing to pay $5.99 a month or something
Right.
to belong to this group that they actually communicate with, on an ongoing
Find
basis.
something of value to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So group connectivity, commonality, rapport of some sort or another, becoming increasingly important in business. And I just think that you and I need to be the first people to come right out and say community, identity, meaning, stand for something more than making a paycheck next month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the way to go, don't you think?
Oh, it has to, because you feel so, there's no fulfillment in just going and banging out an 8-hour day just for the sake of banging out an 8-hour day. You
Yeah.
want to have something a little bit deeper in the experience, I think.
Absolutely. And that opens the door to people who are trainers, coaches, right? Now, this is what business owners must hear, all right? This is the time to bring these outsiders into your culture and say, help us galvanize, help us come together and not drift away from each other and just, I'll do my thing, send the check, thanks a lot, bye everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these conversations about who are we and what do we really stand for?
Yeah.
I love these kinds of conversation, and younger folks in particular really dote on this kind of dialogue because they're working very, very hard. They're getting burnt out. 43% of all 20-somethings are planning on leaving. They're burnt out on their job already, and they've barely gotten started.
Yeah, I can't even remember when I was in my 20s. No, but I mean,
Much less whether you were probably burnt out on other things.
I probably
don't know.
was, yeah.
But no, anyway. So we're looking for commonality. We're looking for meaning,
Yeah.
and I think identity is at the heart of it.
Yeah. No,
Who
I think
are
that
we?
makes sense.
Huh?
I think if you get up and go to work, you want to feel like you're going for a reason and a purpose.
And you're becoming more of who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
More of who you really are.
On an individual basis.
On an individual basis. Right. And then it's pulled, just before we go into the segue here and talk for a second, Robert Kagan, who's a retired Harvard professor, talked about the importance of, we're always talking about strengths finders, Gallup strengths finders, and everybody loves that idea.
Sure.
I mean, it's a cool thing. But he talks about, he says, here's the real deal. Admit your weaknesses.
Oh,
And let
wow.
me, your boss, and other people in small groups, the different cubicles, people who know, and meet with them, and they will help you overcome your weaknesses.
Wow, that would really
With
take
no judgments, not
Yeah.
not putting down, none of that, no games.
That would take a lot of courage, but I could see that could be way more valuable.
Oh, well, if you feel like you're becoming a better human being and you have these people that are rooting for you to be more patient, be more empathetic, be more sensitive to other people's feelings, write with greater passion, I mean, all kinds of interesting things
Wow.
that people could become because of the right culture. You bet.
Huh.
Fascinating.
Looking at their weaknesses. Oh.
Yeah.
If I had weaknesses, I would.
you know, that you don't have that problem.
I
but,
know, see?
Here we are in WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker with Bruce Aaron, and we're having a fascinating, deep conversation about the next chapter in business culture, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so we encourage you to really give this some thought. Again, people, final thought here is that people hear things and they go, yeah, you know, that's a point, that's an interesting thing, right? But about 70% of the time, they don't absorb the knowledge into their body. They don't allow it to get into their psyche. I know this is a fact. I do it myself.
Yeah, everybody does.
You know, I'm good at making little notes and lists of things I learned today, blah, 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 but I don't live this information.
Yeah.
I don't absorb it really. And so you got to make a conscious decision. If you agree with the basic principles of rebuilding and redefining who you are, your culture, the vision, the future, the passion, the genius of who you are and can be, then you have to accept responsibility for that and actually move forward instead of saying, that's a cool idea, we'll get to that some other time.
Yeah, you got to take some kind of a concrete step or
concrete
something
step
that will commit yourself to, not in a negative way or not in an oppressive way, but something that's going to give you impetus to carry through.
You're adding it to your belief system. It's no less than that.
Yeah.
And that means you have to feed consciously, you have to feed your subconscious. You have to feed your subconscious. The consciousness is the navigator of the ship. You have to feed the subconscious. Here's what we believe. Here's how I'm going to change. Here's how I'm going to adopt or overcome certain weaknesses.
Right.
I can do this. You have to ask. You have to kind of reinforce those ideas, and they'll eventually, after about a month or so, you can change your behavior. Yeah, that's true. All right, we're back here with WowBiz Nebraska and Bruce Aaron. We're going to cut away for just a second and talk to you a little bit about the sponsor of this show. It's called growthdynamics.org. Growthdynamics.org is a beautiful site. It's got lots of interesting insights. And this is a consulting firm that has been in the eastern Nebraska area for a number of years. And their key is, as we were kind of discussing, unleashing the vision of your firm, helping you out in strategic planning, helping you weave diverse and seemingly incompatible ideas together, right, into some kind of cohesive plan that you can move forward on. This is all Growth Dynamics. We're going to spell it GROWTHDYNAMIX. That's the key. There are other firms around the country with the ICS, but this is with x.org. And you'll have access to a broad realm of resources, not only with business development, not only with culture, very, very important. Those two are coming together, by the way. Employee marketing and customer development are coming together, by the way. Very interesting macro trend. You see HR people going, well, we got to promote the culture. We got to tell people that we're the place they want to work. Yeah. So they need help doing that. It's one thing to sort through resumes. It's another thing to put together an energetic, focused pitch for your culture. A lot of cynical young people say, yeah, I've heard that before. You're really great, blah, blah, blah. Thanks, I'll go somewhere else.
But they can see through the
superficiality of it. Oh, we're really great. Well, So business development and culture, and then, of course, talent development, leadership seminars, and so on, all part of the Growth Dynamics palette, shall we say, or continuum of services, can revitalize and strategize your organization. They've done it many, many times, so they're proven. This is not an experimental concept, and in this digital era, strategic leadership is the way to go. You got to have people with the thought, the vision, and the energy to bring your culture together. And they've done it again. We'll talk about that some other time. But at any rate, growthdynamics.org, check them out. And I think you'll be very happy with the organization's leadership and influence on your culture enterprise-wide. Don't you know, isn't that fun to say? Enterprise-wide. That's great. Anyway, so we're back with Bruce Arent. We're going to change the vibe.
We are.
Yeah, we're going to change the vibe. We're going to do something a little spontaneous, a little gamey.
That doesn't sound good, gamey.
Doesn't sound good. Yeah. But gamesmanship, that's another interesting thing.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and frankly, gaming is the way for HR trainers to teach and instruct people going into the future.
Interesting.
Very important, the dimension of game and playfulness, and little fun competition. But people remember the stuff.
All of the younger employees out there grew up on the Xbox and everything else. They're
doing
used
all that.
To that type of
So how you don't
approach.
have to be a genius to realize, why don't we take our training manual and our executive leadership program and figure out a way for them to be a little more playful,
interactive,
so people remember this stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Are you ready?
I don't know if I am or not.
Here we are. Now this is actually not a professional container.
Really? I thought it was.
This is actually an upside down cake box holder. All right. But anyway, it looks good.
It looks great.
And what we have in here are snippets, profound ideas, strategies, concepts, theories, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'd like to do with this, we'll make up the game, but as we go through this, we'll like redefine the rules. Right?
Okay.
If it's not sufficiently entertaining or interesting, then we just change the rules and make it that way. Okay. So here we go. Let's pretend here we are, the middle of 2020. All right. COVID-19 is kind of lingering. There's a little bit of residue of still fear and apprehension about the future. Right. About a third of all companies, small or medium-sized businesses, about a third of them are struggling seriously and may not make it much longer.
No doubt.
Yeah. Then there's another third that can hang in there for a while, but if things don't change early in 2021, they're in deep trouble. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with.
Serious stuff.
So so what I'd like you to do, Bruce Arent, is pick up 2 snippets of paper here. We have little things, that's right.
Okay,
very random process here, of course. And I'd like you to read the 2 of them out loud.
Okay.
And then we'll discuss quickly which one of the 2 would be most relevant and helpful to a small group of executives that are sitting around trying to figure out what do we do with the company and what should we be doing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
First one. The road to bold is paved with failure. And this means that having a strategy in place to handle risk and learn from mistakes is critical.
Yes, boy.
That is completely true.
They're completely true.
I know all about failure.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so bold.
All of us do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't think about it as bold, but until this very moment.
Yeah.
But well, that's a very interesting idea. And it would seem to be relevant if you can get the people at the table to say, okay, I can accept the fact that we're going to embrace some failure and we'll be fine coming out of that.
I think that's the key. You have to embrace and accept failure.
Yeah, well, that's a big deal. What's the other one? Let's see how that compares.
There is massive evidence that having a capacity for abstraction and the ability to transfer concepts symbolically is the key to success in our wicked world. And wicked is in quotation marks.
Yes.
There is massive evidence that having the capacity for abstraction and the ability to transfer concepts symbolically is the key to success in our wicked world.
Yeah. Now, which one of those 2, now that you've read them both and ruminated about both of them, which one of them do you think would be most helpful if we had a team of managers sitting in the room right now saying, hey, you 2 guys, tell us what we should be focusing on?
Definitely the first one.
First one.
Yeah, this one's a little bit abstract to me. But this whole thing about the road to bold is paved with failure, and then we have to, put a strategy in place to handle the risks, learn from our mistakes. Okay. That's the whole thing, is learning from mistakes.
Okay, all right, cool.
Okay.
I guess I'll go along with that. I think the second one actually...
See, you're a deeper thinker than I am.
No, that's not true. But symbols can help people, if you focus on symbols and say, we are a waterfall, okay? Or we are an escalator and we are moving up. All of a sudden people go, I hadn't really thought about ourselves that way. And so that means when we get to a certain level, then we're prepared to do, I'm just saying symbols can
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
through
I could see that.
the rigid thinking,
Right.
and that can be extremely helpful,
Right.
especially under these circumstances. But I'll let you have that.
But that's a very creative concept.
I think symbols are incredible. Storytelling and symbols together. All right,
Okay.
let's do it again.
Another one?
Yes. And let's say this, I'm going to make up a different situation.
Oh, rule changer.
Yeah, some kind of a different change, so don't look at it yet.
I'm not.
So let's say, for instance, we're talking to a few executives here, and they have a problem employee. One of the managers is a problem, okay? And he's getting into scrapes with some of the employees, and there's a kind of a bad vibe, et cetera. But we really like this guy, and he's been around a long, long time. All right, so we're facing a little bit of an issue about
Kind of a quandary.
what do we do with this guy? Kind of a quantity. All right, now, given that as a backdrop, let's see what we have to say.
Okay. Competition must strike at the foundations, not at the margins of the competitors.
Okay, well, it has to do obviously with competition.
Okay.
So not directly about
Not-
the individual,
Right,
but it
okay.
could be relevant. We'll see.
Most organizations are stale and boring. The winners are those least fettered by conventional notions about what a corporation should even be. Self-developed, battered and bruised, jolly, audacious, and a bit nuts.
I love it. So let's say that this particular employee that I've described is kind of a rigid, by the book kind of a guy.
Okay.
Been around for a long time, likes to do things the way we did it several years ago, et cetera.
Right.
All right. So now, having said that now, and these two things here, which one of those two comments do you think would be helpful in making a decision about this person?
This second one here.
Yeah, because he wouldn't fit into that kind of
He just doesn't.
bubbly culture with a lot of experimentation and having a good time and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, so what do you do with the guy?
Probably fire him.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Except, let's go back to the first one. Maybe he, or she for that matter, has some insight or knowledge that would enable the company to strike at the very foundation of a competitor.
Well, and
so
if
you could
they-
use them in a more strategic
If
way.
they've been around long enough, and they might really, really know the industry and really know the
Right.
that would be very helpful.
That would be helpful.
And maybe that person's never been, he or she, never been really tapped.
Yes.
Really utilized.
Exactly.
That's possible.
So they may have redefine their role and make him more important rather than less. That's a possibility. That
sounds good.
That's good. Okay, let's do another one. This is fun. Let's extend the show. Just keep on going and going, whether they turn the cameras on
for
or off.
weeks.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go here. Now this is a deal here. We're at a strategy session. We've had a product that's not working so well. We're a little nervous about the fact that our core product seems to be kind of floundering.
Has it been around a long
Yeah,
time?
been long. It's our core product. It's not doing very well. We don't have a second backup product really that we have faith in. So that's the situation. Let's see what we have to say here.
The emerging business model is a spider's web and kaleidoscope designed to exploit a particular market opportunity, then dissolve, never to come back, no, never to come together again.
Yes, yes. Now that's a very, how do I say it, emerging, and it's going to be a popular business model, you pull together freelancers, specialists, collaborations.
Spider's web and
go
kaleidoscope.
Go after an opportunity. When you've exploited it and you've got it, dissolve and go on,
Yeah.
see? Now, that's a powerful thing. And we can do that on the internet. I mean, we're set up to really do that kind of thing.
You've got to be very nimble to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, you got to pick up the phone and find people and say, do you want to be part of this? Now, what's the second deal?
Okay. Know what the numbers are, but then explode toward intuition, toward wow, toward vision.
Oh, my goodness. I love that. Well, both of them are great for this situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Bunch of guys sitting around saying, boy, our core product just isn't getting it done. Maybe we should cut prices or,
I think this is the one. Know what the numbers are, and you know the numbers are bad right now.
Right.
But then explode toward intuition,
Yes,
toward wow, and toward vision.
toward vision. And what does that, in your opinion, what does that really mean? If somebody said, well, that's a cool idea. What are we really getting at? What are we saying?
Well, we're going to turn the company and our approach on its head. We're going to do something completely different.
Yeah.
Not completely different, but something that's going to have a shot, and something different enough that it's going to separate us. And
Yeah. I think it would imply maybe a broader examination of the ecosystem. In other words, not just our industry, but all the influences that are shaping our industry.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have the ecosystem that we're working with. And the second thing is, instead of worrying about share of market, trying to get our piece of the pie a little bit bigger, which is how most companies operate,
Right.
you redefine the market altogether. All right, so now you own the whole pie. It might be a little smaller, but you own the whole pie rather than trying to share a slice of it with him and over him and over him.
So you change the borderline.
Change the borderline. Right, right.
Interesting.
Think in broader terms.
Okay.
Now that's a powerful and by the way, a fairly popular and effective strategic idea or concept. That has to do with the blue ocean strategy. We've talked about blue ocean strategy before. That's kind of what that is. Instead of playing in the Red Sea and battling it out on profit margins and we'll undercut him and all that, you move over here to a blue ocean, you say, I'm going to redefine the whole market segment and create the boundaries using maybe the associations and the mental thoughts of the customer rather than their distribution, geography, and all that.
And again, this is probably a good time if there's ever been a time to do it.
Yes, that's exactly right.
As things are trying to come back online and trying to get reorganized and reestablished after this shutdown.
So true, so true, so true. Well, this was good exercise.
Yeah.
I think really very interesting. And we thank our viewers for checking us out here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrock with Bruce Aaron. Bruce is a good reader. You read things very well, and I appreciate that so much. And we might continue this little exercise sometime in the next, because people have actually contacted me and said, I love the show because you don't do the standard stuff. You find ways to make business more interesting. In this particular case, it has a game-like quality.
Yeah.
But it really is fascinating. And we thank you so much for watching us. And we'll see you next time here on WowBiz Nebraska. And until then, think differently. Realize this is the transition period. This is the moment of change. Be a change champion. Leap forward. As Bruce Aaron said earlier, be bold. Yeah. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.